This week's Parashat is Tzav, and it's also Shabbat HaGadol. The Parashat gives detailed instructions about the different kinds of offerings that will be brought, how the priests will process them, and who, if anyone, will get to eat any of the offerings. It ends with the first day of the purification process for Aaron and his sons as they prepare to become the priests for the people. Part of the ritual involves putting some of the blood of the slaughtered ram of ordination on Aaron's right ear, on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. For trope fans, the first word of chapter 8, verse 23, Vayishkat, and it was slaughtered, takes a shalshelet, which is a very rare exotic trope. Philo says that the consecrated priest, quote, must be pure in words and actions and in his whole life, for words are judged by hearing. The hand is the symbol of action and the foot of the pilgrimage of life. Rabbi Joseph Hertz said, the ear was touched with blood that it may be consecrated to hear the word of God, the hand to perform the duties of the priesthood, and the foot to walk in the right path of righteousness. But that's not what I want to concentrate on today. The first two verses of this parasha say, Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh called to Moshe and spoke to him from the tent of meeting, saying, speak to the Israelite people and say to them. Verse 6 says that the fire shall constantly burn on the altar, quote, it shall not go out. From the book Speaking Torah, a compilation of Hasidic teachings by Rabbi Arthur Green and three of his colleagues. The Or Torah, the Maggid of Mezrich, reminds us that after the destruction of the temple, the Talmud says that, quote, whoever studies Torah is like one who offers all the sacrifices. The fire on the altar that doesn't go out is our devotion to studying Torah. The Menor Einayim, Rabbi Menachem Nachum of Chernobyl, teaches that the real purpose of Torah is to help us, quote, bring our evil urge to submission. By means of Torah, one can struggle with the evil urge and defeat it, since the light within Torah can turn the urge back towards goodness. Through Torah, one can cleave to our blessed God, who is hidden within Torah. He is the light within it, end quote. If we study without seeking the hidden light, we see only the outside. We may become expert in laws and practice, but that's not going to be fulfilling. We have to look for meaning, for the light that's within. On some later verses, the Noam Elimelech, Rabbi Elimelech of Lezhensk, teaches about the linen garments that the priest wears when he takes the ashes away from the altar, and the instruction that he change into other clothes when he finishes, that, quote, cleaning out the ashes is what we do whenever we work on the quality of our character that don't serve us well. Every person is a priest in the temple of his or her own soul, working step by step toward holiness. Cleaning out the ashes to ensure impure fires don't start up again is a vital part of that work. Next Shabbat is Shabbat HaGadol, so called because the day the Israelites separated the lamb for the sacrifice before they left Egypt was a Shabbat, and the Egyptians noticed they were working but didn't bother them. It was also the Shabbat when rabbis would deliver a sermon to remind the people about the laws of Pesach so they could prepare and observe the holiday correctly. The teachers who compiled Speaking Torah note in their discussion of these teachings that the Hasidic masters transformed Torah. Rabbi Eben later says, they're totally unafraid to ask the question, but what does this mean to us? We are still Jews, and this is still Torah. Torah remains the battlefield on which we want to fight out the moral and spiritual issues. Rabbi Art Green notes that we're bothered by things in the text that raise no reaction from the Hasidim, and that we too accept the commandment to seek the light within and behind the text. We stand on their shoulders. Rabbi Shai Held concentrates his teaching on the Thanksgiving offering. Most of the other offerings are either burned completely or shared by the people and the priests. They can be eaten until the third day. But the Thanksgiving offering, the Korban Todah, must be eaten on the day it is made or burned up the next morning. What's the problem with leftovers? Rabbi Isaac Abravanel from the 15th century said that the purpose of making the Thanksgiving offering is for the person to publicly acknowledge what they're grateful for. Having to eat it all means they have to invite friends and family to celebrate. Rabbi Held notes that gratitude is, quote, inherently outward-looking, end quote. Think of a time when you received something, either material or some kind of gesture or word from someone else. When we feel gratitude, we feel the need to pass it on by becoming givers ourselves. He says, a grateful heart overflows. It's a religious value. When we have been beneficiaries of God's kindness, we are expected to bestow kindness ourselves. If we don't feel like doing that, what we're experiencing is pleasure or gladness, but not gratitude. In Devarim, chapter 16, verse 14, it says, you shall rejoice in your festival with your son and daughter, your male and female slave, the Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow in your communities. So we have to share not only with family and friends, but also the vulnerable people who live among us. Maimonides from the 12th century says in Mishnah Torah, the laws of Yom Tov, the laws of holidays, that someone who ignores the duty to share the feast isn't rejoicing in a divine commandment, but is rejoicing in his own stomach. Rejoicing of this kind, he says, is a disgrace to those who indulge in it. We have a fundamental theological and spiritual lesson from the instruction not to have leftovers from the Thanksgiving offerings. Not only are we to receive God's gifts, quote, but we are asked to become givers ourselves. God's gifts are meant to flow through us and not merely to us. There's one other biblical offering that can't be left over until the morning, the Paschal sacrifice, the Korban Pesach. Think of the words in the Haggadah. Let all who are hungry come and eat. All who are in need, let them come celebrate Pesach. One of the things we're supposed to learn from the experience of bondage in Egypt is, quote, to care for the vulnerable and downtrodden, end quote. If that's so, how can we not share? Rabbi Hell says, leftovers indicate a failure of empathy. We have a responsibility to take care of those who are hungry. We have to open both our hearts and our doors.